everybody, this is Graham, also known as the Collector 75, and welcome back to part 10 of my Marvel UK Transformers G1 comics review. For this review we are continuing with the issue number 89 until number 100. Now then, most of these contain the US strip, because after the earth-shatteringly consequences of Target 2006, we needed a bit of a break from those events, so we switched over to the US strip. We continued on now with, I believe it's called Aerial Bots Over America. Now then, here we go. Let me just straighten this up a little bit, because it looks a little bit skew-iffed. Sorry about this, a little bit hard. Anyway, now then, we've got the usual transformation page. Oh, I didn't mention the cover. I did like this cover. I loved it when I was a kid. Great one. Like I said before, I do love about the British ones, because obviously the US strip was split into two parts. We got the American cover, and then they commissioned their own cover as well, which is always good. So there we go. A little bit here on the transformation. We're out with the universe, in with the AZ. All that is where it was reprinting the sort of like the Transformers universe biographies. It now decided to go with the AZ, starting at A and working all the way through. Which I'm not sure if there's one in this issue. Yeah, there is on page 17, but I think I cut it out. Anyway, this is a simple story with the Insecticons now on Earth. Just trying to get some energy from some sort of dam. Bombshell implants this bloke here with a cerebral chip. Then he just drives off as the cerebral chip sort of like takes effect on him. Drives to the Decepticons. They basically take him over and tell him, after making him to do stuff like lick something off Bombshell's foot. Yeah, they just take him to the sort of like the dam where he works. I'm not quite sure if it's the Hoover Dam, Black Canyon, but I'm pretty sure it's probably supposed to be the Hoover Dam. Anyway, so he takes him there, blah blah blah, takes the Insecticons into the place, and Megatron holds people hostage, and then eventually the Decepticons will turn up. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime, recovering from injuries sustained while he was away in limbo from Target 2006 story. But of course, now then, in this story, of course, if you were a US reader, he of course attained this injury back in about issue 70 of the UK series, where they attacked the Decepticons trying to get the Devastator transformation code, something like that. Anyway, blah blah blah, just load of talking going on, saying about that Donny Finkelberg person, I think that was his name. And then it says they're going to try and track down Triple I or something like that. Wheeljack's here with the newly constructed aerial bots. Here we go, Silverbolt, Air Raid, Slingshot and Firefly and Skydive. And then he basically just tells them that they've heard something coming from some sort of dam, go check it out. As he's there, Megatron's there, and Shrapnel takes control of the computer, summoning the space bridge and 3 new Decepticons, which are called Ramjet, Dirge and Thrust. And then across the space bridge comes this machine, which is going to basically pump all the water from the dam into Cybertron powering turbines. And that's it for this issue. It's all sort of continued next issue. We've got a little advert there for the stars. Now then, if you can see, this is where the AZ was, but I cut it out. I was thinking about replanting them back in it, but it was too much hassle. Anyway, we've got Robo Capers. And of course, next issue, which is just the continuation of that story. Let's move on with issue number 90. Here we go. Another, I believe this is a US cover. But I believe it didn't have the wrong Decepticon with aerial bots on it, as far as I remember. Now then, we just move on. Transformation page as usual. Movie Mania, going about Transformers the movie. I believe it's talking about a winter special, which I never actually got until about a couple of years ago, which I found on eBay, because I could never find it in my newsagent. Anyway, so we just go on about this story. Here's Jetfire with Donny Finkelberg, I believe his name is. Probably got it wrong. Always seem to. And they're trying to track down the Autobots that came over the space bridge in about issue 60 odd. Meanwhile, the Decepticons are still drilling into this. It's taking them a while to get through it for some reason. And then the Aerobots turn up. There's a bit of a dogfight with some of the people where they use their various powers on each other. Blah, blah, blah. Like there's Firefly causing a firestorm and everything like that. Blah, blah, blah. Megatron, more guff talking. Waiting for them still to drill through because they're not doing too well for some reason. Anyway, here we go. Blah, blah, blah. Eventually, we get to what everyone wanted to see, with the Aerobots combining into Superion. As we go through, he's starting to deal with that. He's going to do it, but then Megatron is about to blast him. So Superion decides to kill the human along with Megatron, but I believe it is Silverbolt that manages. His consciousness goes through Superion and tells him to stop, and then allowing Megatron to do something or other. And I believe the human fights back from Bombshell, Cerebral Shell. And instead of blasting Superion here, which he separates anyway because he knew he was going to kill the human, Megatron eventually blasts the space bridge and forcing it to return to Cybertron. And then Megatron can't believe it, Bombshell can't believe it, and so they all fly off, a bit unhappy. And then as it goes through, we find out what's happened to those Autobots, including Blaster. You can see the leak there that Donnie Finkelberg was tracking earlier. And there is all the Autobots' heads on walls with the return of Circuit Breaker. Not quite sure why I cut that bit at the bottom of the page out, but I'm sure it's something. And there we go. See, oh, it must have been an advert for this. Win something. Yeah, there we go. 20 posters to be won free. That was my entry form. More Grimgrams, Stock Exchange. And your choice. A selection of best from Hugo Ridlin. Let's have a look. Issue number 59 was his best cover, best story, Wreck and Rule, best fact file, Devastator, best cartoon strip, Robo Capers, best issue number 82. And then we go with Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. Like I said before, I could never get into it, so don't ask me what happens. Then we got next issue. We have the Aerobots this one, so it's the Stunticons' turns next one. More Robo Capers by Lou Stringer. Here we go. And that's issue 90 done. Oh, put it on the wrong pile there. Here we go with issue number 91. Let me just straighten this up, make sure it's nice and straight. Nice little cover that. Stunticons, make Menasor, make trouble. So then the information page, we've got Circuit Breaker there. And there we go. I'm not quite sure of that, just competition stuff. And this is Circuit Breaker explaining what happened when the Autobots turned up. How she attacked them, managed to knock them out with usually all this glitter sort of stuff, a bit like ticker tape. And then just attacked them or knocked them all unconscious, blah blah blah, stole all their bodies. Put their heads on the wall and are doing experiments with their bodies and stuff. Anyway, then blah blah blah. Skids has been charged to go with Donnie to track them down. Yeah, not much happening really. Optimus Prime wiped the memories of all the aerial bots because he wasn't happy with their last mission and is about to infuse them with new life from the creation matrix, which he's doing there. But Megatron manages to infiltrate that. I can't remember. I think it's because Optimus Prime still has a cerebral shell in his head too. I think I've got a bit of glare on this, so hopefully it won't detract too much from the video when it comes out. Yeah, but he managed to use it as well to give life to the Stunticons, which now are going to attack people. Here we go, see, he's setting them off. He loves it. And there we go. As it goes on, there's Donnie going for a sleep for the night. Suddenly when he wakes up in the morning, all the Stunticons are parked next to him. And then they just follow him and run him off the road, and there we go. See, it's causing carnage. Donnie wants to get out of the way, leaving Skids to it. And then next issue, Clash of the Special Teams. Till film 2006 with Grimlock giving us a review of Transformers the movie, which is of course coming soon. Right, and there we go. So more Spitfire. Like I said, not really my thing. And then just more Robo Capers with Grimlock for some reason is in it. It's because of Transformers the movie. He's wearing a top hat to go to the premiere. And yeah, next issue, Clash of the Giant Robots. So issue number 92 now. Here we go. Lovely cover on this one as well. Robot Roadworks. Oh, so we open up the front cover. And we come into number 92. Here we go, the information page there. This is a continuation, of course, of the US strip, with now Rat, commanded by Circuit Breaker, attacking the Stunticons. Unfortunately, this time they come up a lot more opposition, because, of course, the Decepticons don't care for humans, and start attacking them willy-nilly. Circuit Breaker finds that this is a bit more daunting, but she manages to not drag strip them, I think it's Wild Rider, I think, down to size. But Motormaster knocks half a cab at her and knocks her out. Donnie runs up to her and says, "Hey, the Autobots aren't all bad," or whatever. But then she takes no notice. The Aerobots team turn up. And more talking, more boring really. And blah, blah, blah. Eventually the Stunticons combine to form Menasor. And the Aerobots form Superion. And it creates a big fight in the middle of all these humans. And Rat and Circuit Breaker has to do something. So as usual, in all these stories, they attack the good guy and fries Superion's brain just long enough for Menasor to knock him out. And then Menasor is about to crush her, but then this bloke on a bit of string from a helicopter saves her. And then with the deactivated Superion, they basically the rat captures Superion. And then Donnie, in sort of like true sort of fashion to what he is, sells out Skids, the deactivated Skids, while he's sleeping. Sells them out to Rat. And then we have an advert, Transformers the movie soundtrack, which I did buy on LP. And then more Robo Capers. Christmas, of course. There's a nice advert for the movie soundtrack. And then more Spitfire. And then coming to a newsagent near you, Transformers of a Giant poster magazine, which of course I as well only got just the few years ago now. But we move on with issue number 93. Let me just line this up. Here we go. With a nice it's a Christmas issue, this one. British strip, I believe. But with a cover with nothing to do with it. It's just basically telling us that, don't worry, Galvatron will be back soon. And this issue is just all about... it wasn't really my favourite story. It's about Jetfire, really, saying that he was created on Earth. He doesn't really understand all the stuff about Cybertron and stuff. But he says he couldn't really do it when he was saving the Autobots, but as soon as humans are in danger, he couldn't wait to help or something. And then Spike just sort of says, well, sorry, Buster really says just, you know, well, you're the first of an Earthbound Transformer, so get used to it or something. Not really my cup of tea, that story, as you can probably tell. But then the more Grim Grams, there was an A to Z there. Can't remember who of now. And then just more Spitfire, really. And of course, next week is Circuit Breaker back, I believe. Yes, I believe she is. With back with the US strip, and it's still not getting much better, unfortunately. With the introduction of the Battle Chargers, Runabout and Run Amok. I remember getting this issue. Oh my God, what was it? Just after Christmas one year, walking all the way down to Egham from my home in the pitch black, because you could then when you were a kid. You can't these days without someone trying to abduct you. Anyway, yeah, so it's not a very good story. Here we have Circuit Breaker with, I believe, it's Skids' brain module, with Donnie Finkelberg now sporting a Rat t-shirt, which is pretty good. And there's all the deactivated Autobots they've got, including Slingshot and stuff like that. Megatron, growing weary for some reason, decides to challenge Optimus Prime to direct combat. Instead of just radioing him and telling him, he says he wants to do it with style, so he sends these two fellas to go and basically deliver the message in person. But they can't be bothered, and so they just do something else. Basically go on a bit of a rampage with a couple of spray cans, really. As you can see, start spraying it up all in Cybertronia. Bit of a dull story, but there we go. Eventually they do all this. And that's it, really. Not much else happens. It's a very boring story. Yeah, not much else happens through this issue, really. It's just more Spitfire. This is a bit of a dull time for the Transformers comic, really. Robo Capers, quite good there. So we're going to stop there. Sorry, stop. We're going to continue there with issue number 95 now. Yeah, so here we go. Issue number 95. Here we go. If you notice to break this, because I've got to keep stopping every now and again to stop my camera from overheating. So here we have the second half of this story, where the Battle Chargers have managed to learn to write in English and just write humans are wimps on the Statue of Liberty. Secret Wars 2 has been either cancelled or finished, one of the two. And as we go on, blah blah blah. Now and then Rat attack them, and Circuit Breaker protects this little child. And they piss off, really, blah blah blah. More boring stuff. Donnie's trying to convince her that the Autobots are actually good and the Decepticons are bad. And forcing this into a last confrontation at the Statue of Liberty. Rat are all ready for her, but the Battle Chargers are taking them out. I've got to be careful here, because I believe these pages are loose. And then Circuit Breaker has cobbled together all the Autobots into this weird machine where she is taking control of it. As I said, these pages are loose. She doesn't realise, but eventually a hand just protects her, even though she didn't order it to, making her realise that maybe the Autobots are actually good. Eventually, though, the she manages to knock the battle chargers out, and they fall into their deaths in the sea, where we never see them again until, I believe it's about issue 200, I think. Anyway, eventually she lets all the Autobots go. And then Donnie gives all the money that he's earned for delivering like skids in to charity. More Grimgrams with Spitfire. Here we go. And then I believe not much else. Just the next issue is back to the British strip. And then Robo Capers. Quite a nice little one there. Now let me put that together. There we go. So then we come on to the next British strip, which is leading into the death of Optimus Prime. Of course, it isn't really, but it was heralded as that. Whereas Optimus Prime now, this good little cover. Can't believe how badly the Autobots have been faring, like against various things with the Space Bridge and, of course, the Galvatron affair. So he decides to hatch a little plan to force the Autobots to deal with things. Like I say, this is basically just him coming to conclusions and stuff. And so with a little plan from Wheeljack, he constructs something to help him do it. Which I can't tell you that because it'll ruin the story if you've never read these ones. Meanwhile, Megatron is just, as usual, hanging around his little camp with all his little Decepticons. Now then, I believe that Megatron is going to hire, or thanks to Soundwave anyway, get the Predacons from Cybertron, give them all Earth modes. But his Shockwave listening, he has been disposed as leader, and he's just waiting for his chance to get back. As you can see, he's hatching a little plan as well with the Predacons. Meanwhile, Optimus Prime decides to head out and do a little surveillance on the Decepticons on his own. As you can see, he is waiting there via Laserbeak. And there's the Predacons taking target practice at Motormaster. And of course, they have just been told that Optimus Prime is on his way. So they prepare. But Shockwave takes Razorclaw to one side and says, you realise, once this operation is underway, there's no going back. And he says, don't worry, you can count on us. But as we can see, Optimus Prime now approaching the Decepticons and then is ambushed by the Predacons and says, almost made it too. They're called the Predacons, Prime, and they'll be the death of you, with Megatron gleefully looking at them. More Grimgrams. I think they're Chris, I think. Or are they Heinz? I don't know. Anyway, Spitfire and the Troubleshooters. Just as we go through. And then there's the next issue, of course, with a Razorclaw. For Optimus Prime, the hunt is over. So then we come on to this next issue. This has a shocking ending. Can we believe it? We'll just have to wait and see. Number 97. Terror of the Predacons. This issue is just all about, I believe, Optimus Prime facing off against all the Predacons. He managed to evade most of them, as you can see, in their individual modes. He takes most of them out, no problem whatsoever. And unfortunately, though, then he remembers some stuff which, you know, he just sort of told Wheeljack about half an hour ago back at the art. And then he comes up against Predaking. And now then he's run into his trailer for some reason, which doesn't usually disappear in the comics, to get something, and then he sees a pair of feet. That's a bit strange. And then Megatron attacks him, and then he tells the Predacons to finish the job. And then they say, well, we got to do this, otherwise we're dead. But obviously they're not talking about something which we don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, as the last thing we see Razorclaw and Rampage about to attack Optimus Prime. Then it just says later, the Autobots are turning up. See what's happened. Then on the floor they witness the strewn wreckage of Optimus Prime on the floor. Wheeljack's not sure because he can't get into contact with Optimus Prime if it's the real one or not. But there we go. Next issue is The Harder They Die. Grimgrams, Spitfire, and of course next week Megatron's final triumph. Looking all happy with himself. So that was issue number 97. We're going to move on now with issue number 98. Oh. Here we are. Nice little cover here. I still have my Galvatron badge, which used to be on my headboard when I was a kid, but when I believe my mum and dad was going to get me a new bed, I managed to salvage it and put it back on the comic. So as you can see, Home Sweet Home is back. Megatron's back on Cybertron. And now here we have the return of Optimus Prime. He's not really dead, we all knew that. But he's now on Cybertron and meets up with Outback, the mini Autobot. And then basically tells him that, I believe he does eventually anyway. Oh no, Megatron does tell him, because Megatron's on Cybertron too. And basically he's telling the decapitated head of Straxus, which is in this sort of like bubble thing, because he's not dead. He died in the US series, but in the UK he did carry on living, even though he's just a head in a jar, basically. Basically now tells him of what actually happened at the end. We see Razorclaw and Rampage about to attack him, but they just jump over to him and run away. And instead, all the Predacons attack Meg with his fusion cannon, but he gets one back on Cybertron. Blah, blah, blah. He sees Optimus Prime by this thing, blasts him and destroys him. But for some reason, there's Optimus Prime hiding in the bushes. He attacks Megatron. Megatron summons the space bridge, and Optimus Prime throws them both into the partially materialised space bridge and causing it to dematerialise. Both of them end up on Cybertron. And then we see Straxus when he tells him that how Blaster destroyed his body, but his head survived. And now then, here we go. Megatron's already put a sort of a plan into action to deal with Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime returns to Iacon to find it a shattered ruins, and then is attacked by Rack and Ruin of the Wreckers and a Guardian unit, which we last saw in about issue 30. Shows that they did exist on Cybertron too, just as sort of like drones. And he's being pummeled there, wakes up, and eventually he's put on trial for being an imposter of Optimus Prime by the Wreckers, and Ultra Magnus is about to execute him. So there we go. Next issue is Under Fire. Now then, there we go. Got a competition for Transformers the movie on Telltale. Grimgrams. More Spitfire. Like I said, cannot be bothered with that. And next week we got a review of Action Force. Now then, here we go. Robo Capers. Sort of, anyway. Telling us what to do with our sticker. And it says, don't put it on your bum, don't put it on your teacher's head, don't put it on a school bully, but wear it on your jacket. And he's got his little girl with a little love heart. Don't think so, somehow. Anyway, right, so there's an advert for Weetabix with Mad Bix Beyond Rumbledome. Just love those adverts. Now then, we come to our penultimate issue for this review. And we come to issue number 99 with our free Ultra Magnus badge, with Ultra Magnus about to execute Optimus Prime. So we open this, got to be careful, because it is a bit still sticky actually after nearly 20 years. Probably over 20 years, probably over 25 years now. Anyway, so we got the transformation page, as usual, and then Outback driving through the wastelands of Cybertron and going to save Optimus Prime because he knows it's really him. And so we carry on. Basically, he puts this little thing on Optimus Prime, deactivating the bombs or something, and then there it is. And then he just basically gets him out there, throws a smoke grenade, no one can see nothing, and they just piss off. Well, no one can see nothing. But Ultra Magnus isn't happy, so he sets everyone hunting them down. Meanwhile, Straxus has a plan to deal with Megatron, because of course he was in command before he turned up, and he isn't happy with it. So here we go, and Lord Straxus will truly live again. And this story now only ever played out until about issue number 240 when it was finally resolved. And so like that was about 2 or 3 years. So this storyline was a long running one as well, like only a subplot though. So here we go. Now then, they eventually find Optimus Prime, attack him a little bit, and basically just continue attacking him. But they manage to escape. He destroys the Guardian robot. But unfortunately, Outback was very badly injured. And so Optimus Prime runs off with him and doesn't know what to do because he can't turn to the Autobots for help. But Ultra Magnus is watching and listening. Next issue, Distant Thunder. And we got classified ads, Grimgrams, Robo Capers, Action Force. No Action Force strip. Couldn't get into Action Force for some reason, never into it. And then a next issue, of course, number 100, the only Transformers comic series that ever hit number 100, 200 or 300 for that matter. Anyway, so we're going to pop that down there, and we come on to number issue 100. Its first ever milestone issue. Now then, this did come with a fully wraparound poster art. There we go, so you could take it off and put it on your wall. There we go, so you can see that there. Now, let's continue with the issue. This was a double-sized issue, still for 32p. There we go, we're going to open it up, just straighten up a little bit. Now, and this tells this tale of what happened when Optimus Prime was sent into limbo. As you can see, he's got the deactivated Outback there, but he tells him a story basically because he knows he's dying, so he's trying to lift his spirits. That's just telling what happened before. Here he goes, and so he tells that they were transported to a limbo dimension where they were fighting a battle against, I can't remember who they were called now, but they bear very similarities to the Autobots and Decepticons, these sort of like half-human, techno-organic beings. But they're trying not to fight, but they can't help but fight them. Then after a while, 3 new Decepticons turn up, and they don't know what's going on, but the Decepticons just basically start annihilating them. And Optimus Prime is trying to not to resort to that because he doesn't like killing people, of course. But all these 3 killing machines just went into action and ended everything. And eventually Optimus Prime can't believe it, so he just punches his frenzy. But Shockwave basically just says, come on, that was a logical thing to do. We don't know where we are. We've got to do something. And basically, then he tells of what's been happening, that they arrived here. There were some peace-loving ones, like the light yellow ones, being attacked by these aggressors of the dark, sort of light brown ones, attacking them. And basically they said that the dark brown ones have this device which can get them back to their own dimension, but only if they basically destroy these other inhabitants for them. Optimus Prime refused, of course, and so the other inhabitants basically attack them. Shockwave says he's heard enough and he's off to get this thing off this bloke. And of course, now then, Shockwave has no problems in either destroying the Autobots or these other people, so they attack the Autobots first. Optimus Prime basically defeats the Decepticons here. And then he says now to stop fighting, because now he realises that they're being manipulated somehow. Yeah, and basically then this is an Ang shows up, who's telling them the Decepticons to destroy Optimus Prime. And virtually, you know, and then eventually, but Shockwave doesn't want to do it. And then so he hits Optimus Prime first. And then says, and what of you Decepticon cowards? You sit idly by and watch me do what you could not. I'll give you one last chance to kill him yourself and the device is yours. And Shockwave just pipes up, what you say is illogical, Prime is at your mercy. You do not need us, carry on, kill him. And so basically he's forced into injuring Optimus Prime, which is that injury that he did receive, of course. Now then, it says basically that he doesn't believe any of this is real, because he believes it's all being manipulated and whatever, but he says, do you dare risk being wrong? And so he decides to just take the risk and says, do your worst, then, Ang. And he's about to punch him, but then he just fades away into nothing. And the Autobots find themselves in true limbo, just floating around with these weird aliens attached to their head. They do like a scan of them, and it says, yeah, basically they're just feeding off the negative emotions in their head, mainly violent emotion. And that is it, really. Now then, anyone who read Generation 2, the American series, probably might have sort of like the a sense of deja vu with this story, because it was basically the same story as I think it was in issue 3 or 4, which just a bit different, but it was definitely this sort of story. But then again, it's written by the same bloke, so you can't go wrong there. Anyway, that's it. Blah blah. Then he just says that once the future Decepticons return to future time, they return to Earth. And then he says, what started as a story now is a course of action. But unfortunately, the Wreckers turn up and are about to kill him. And he says, well, he basically just says, I won't beg for my life, but I'll beg for the life of this mini Autobot. And then it says, well, Ultra Magnus have been listening, and as well as Zaron. And he says, I've listened carefully to your little speech, Decepticon. I've just one thing to say. Optimus, welcome home, my friend. And they have a big hug. And that's the end of the story. And this is next issue is Fallen Angel. And then as a special treat for the 100 issues, they've got over 100 Transformers toys to be won free. Another Stars advert there, more Action Force. And then, of course, we've just got next week, and he's back. And don't say we didn't warn you. The return of Galvatron. And I did like this next story. And, of course, now we have Robo Capers. And it's got, like, the evil planets that fly out in space. And it's got, like, this king bloke saying, we've been appearing in this comic since issue 15, and you still haven't created a robot capable of exterminating the Earth people. Rant rave. And then it's got this science bloke, fear not, leader, for this special 100th issue, I've created Nuko, the ultimate robot, a walking nuclear bomb that will completely destroy planet Earth forever. But will it work? Sure it will, let me demonstrate. And he pushes the button and blows up the whole planet there. And he says, mind you, it only works once. And the king bloke just said, you're fired. Oh dear, I did love Robo Caper. Anyway, that was the end of issue number 100, and I shall see you all next time in issue, sorry, not issue, but in my 11th part of the review, which will be issues 101 to about 110-ish, maybe a bit more, I don't know yet. Anyway, bye for now.